Welcome to class. I hope you did enjoy last week's lecture on the vitamin A and folic acid, which are the vitamins of global significance. Today we shall continue with the minerals, which are also micronutrients of global health importance. Yes. So at the end of this class, you should be able to classify the minerals, list the minerals of global health importance, list the food sources of the minerals, discuss the effects of processing on the minerals, discuss the functions of the role of iron, iodine, and zinc, which are the three micro elements of global health importance in the body, and explain the significance of these three in maternal and child nutrition, why you need to educate mothers at the clinics based upon this. Once again, macronutrients, the vitamins and the minerals, and they do not provide energy. They are essential to the body, and we've discussed this already, so make sure you recap. The three trace elements identified to be a problem in our part of the world are due to wrong food choices, poor preparation, poor absorption, and other disorders. These are iodine, iron, and zinc. Yes, iodine is a trace element, and it is found in trace amounts in the human body. The body contains between 20 to 30 milligrams of iodine. About 75 is found in the thyroid gland, that is just in front of the neck. Very, very important. And seafood is the major source. Seafood is the major source. And the another source now is iodinated salt that we have in Ghana. So areas where we don't have enough seafood, that is where we see endemic areas of iodine deficiency. So eating a lot of seafood, one has an advantage. Then the recommendations too, yes, it's by age, and you say that it is not much. However, as we use iodinated salt, which Ghana Health Services is encouraging, we shouldn't have problems in Ghana. Plays an important role in metabolism. Once again, as a coenzyme in most of the energy metabolic processes within the body. You know, its role in the thyroid gland cannot be overlooked. And when you look at the diagram, just in front of the vitamin, iodine plays an important role in the thyroid hormone. So when it is not there, it is deficient or it is lacking, then the thyroid gland tries to look for the iodine in the vicinity, in the neighborhood. So it becomes very active, hyperactive, and that is how it enlarges. And therefore, the commonest deficiency that we see is the goiter. Yes. Integral role in the thyroid hormone, I have mentioned already. Growth and development, brain and the central nervous system. So when there is deficiency, know that brain cannot develop properly, and therefore we shall have IQ to be very low. Don't forget it, because we will need it again. Also plays an important role in metabolism. Yes, so that is typical, the goiter, enlargement in front of the neck due to the deficiency of iodine. And sometimes we see worse cases. And apart from that, there are other deficiency symptoms that we see across the life stages, and the table is a good reflection for you to look at. Also, this figure also shows you which parts of the body are so linked to hypothyroidism. When we talk of hypothyroidism, that is when we do not have enough of the iodine. And when we have over, that is hyperthyroidism. But it's also important for us to know that it is not all goiter that is due to iodine deficiency. And this map gives us a profile of the world where we have the deficiency to be worse. So when you look at the colors, it shows you which ones are worse and which ones are okay. It is important that you have a global picture of what is going on in the world. Yes, which people are at most risk? Yes, we have our pregnant women to be at risk, women of childbearing age, yes, lactating mothers, and then children. children, because they are growing, so their metabolic needs are very high. So they are the people who are at risk. But then with the pregnant women, it is very, very serious, because they are giving birth to children who are not correct. Yes. Yes, I mentioned women all along. We always do things to women, but it doesn't mean that men don't suffer. So you see this picture, there is a man there. Look at him with this big goiter. Yes, so the deficiency is a challenge for everybody. But when we talk of skewness, then that is where the women and children, women of childbearing age, become a challenge. Yes, there is a woman also who has one. And then when we talk of iodine deficiency disorders, yes, when we see the man holding the child, you see, this child is drawing, mentally retarded. All these things are associated with iodine deficiency. You know, decreased IQ. So this child becomes a challenge. For the rest of his life, there should be somebody to take care of such a child. So think about it. The implications, economic implications, you have to go to work. You can't leave this child with anybody. So think about it, so that we can educate. But sometimes when we are educating them, we need to show some of these pictures so that then they take us serious. Because just by saying that, without them seeing real pictures, they don't seem to understand. Yes, iodine deficiency can be corrected. We can have a father and a mother who were born as cretins. That is, they were too short, too small. And Mr. A and Mr. B are cretins. But look, they were able to give birth to wonderful young men who are well-abled, well-structured. They follow the normal growth pattern because they were given iodine doses. So it didn't affect the children. So this can be corrected. But look at them. Dwarfism due to iodine deficiency, and neurological problems, yet they were able to give. So we should encourage parents to come out when they have the challenge so that they can be corrected, so that their children will not be affected. Iron is the other trace element of global importance. And what we see that we are seeing red meat. Yes, that is the richest source. But this is lean meat, richest source of iron. Richest source of iron. Yes. Iron is distributed in the body. We see most of it in the red blood cells, in the blood. Rest in the muscle, which is the myoglobin, and then we store it as ferritin in the body. The food sources, we get it from both plant and animal source, both plant and animal source. Those from plant sources are known as non-heme iron, and those from animal sources as heme iron. Meat especially, and organ meat, liver, heart, they are very, very rich. Others are the egg, then green leafy vegetables. That is where we get ours. Also note, green leafy vegetables, I mentioned it for vitamin A, I mentioned it for folic acid. Now for iron, I'm also mentioning it. So with one stone, you can kill 3 birds. You see, so that's why the green leafy vegetables are important in our part of the world, that we need to promote and guard how to prepare it. The legumes, beans, are also very rich in iron that we can promote. Yes, some of the iron cooking pots also do contribute to iron. The same way as we use the aluminum cooking pans, they also contribute to iron. So the iron cooking, they also contribute to aluminum. So that's the iron cooking pots. Yes, when it comes to absorption, non-heme iron, that is from the plant sources, they are the least, they are poorly absorbed. They are not, because they exist in a form known as iron 3. And for iron 3 to be absorbed, it should be converted into iron 2. And for this conversion to take place, you need vitamin C. Where do we get vitamin C? From our citrus fruits. Orange is a typical example of a citrus fruit. So when we eat our beans and things like that, and then we had to take an orange, we are encouraged to take it. If we do, then we are enhancing the absorbability of iron from our plant sources. So it is very, very important. And then the green leafy vegetables too, those that we can eat raw, when we eat them, we also get the vitamin C easily, and enhances the absorption of the iron. But milk is a poor source. So most people think milk contains a lot of iron. No, it is a poor source of iron. It is a poor source of iron. That is why after 6 months, we encourage mothers to start complementary feeding. The child is born with some iron stored, so the child can stay on with that till 6 months. So after 6 months, we want complementary feeding with iron-rich foods. Very, very important. Very, very important. What are some of the functions of iron? Oxygen carrier. Oxygen carrier. That is why when one is anemic, one feels very tired, fatigued easily, because you cannot get the oxygen to help you generate the energy. Iron is also very, very important as a coenzyme, in the body. So when there is iron deficiency, what happens? We do not get enough blood. One becomes very anemic. The red blood cells are smaller in size. So this time, because they are smaller in size, they are called microcytic anemia, as against the folic acid anemia, where the blood cells look bigger. So they are called macrocytic. This one is called microcytic because the red blood cells look very tiny. So when you look under the microscope, you will see them. So as you go into your clinic session, I'm sure you will look under the microscope and you can differentiate the two. And if there is anemia and there's no blood transfusion quickly, then what happens? The individual dies. So this is a serious case. Yes, it's a serious case. What are some of the causes apart from dietary causes that we are not eating properly? Yes, when there is infections and infestations, malaria, hookworm, and so forth. That is why we are encouraging mothers to sleep in mosquito-treated nets. It is very, very important because the anemia alone has been #1 cause of maternal mortality in our part of the world. And malaria, they also feed, the mosquito, they feed on the blood. Other infections also feed on the blood. So it is very, very important that we try as much as possible. Apart from dietary measures, all other measures too, we take care. We can solve the dietary, but then if we don't take care of the infections and the infestations, then work done with the dietary is zero. So we need to look at it holistically. Another way of seeing iron deficiency is when sometimes we look at the nails. The nails of the adults becomes very rough, and that is called spoon nail, and that can be a good indicator for us to tell her, oh, this person is suffering from iron deficiency. And someone will do the physical appraisal or clinical appraisal, and sometimes by looking in the palm becomes pale, and sometimes too by looking in the eyes become very pale. We can also use that as an index, but that is not the best to redo the HB, and that can tell us specifically that there is anemia present. Yes, and with the absorption, as I mentioned, vitamin C plays an important role with the absorption by reducing the iron from iron 3 to iron 2. Vitamin C is a reducing agent, and when we add small amount of fish, meat or poultry, it better enhances the absorbability of the iron. So let us bear that in mind. So when you have bean stew and you are able to scoop 1 tablespoon of fish powder into it, the iron in the bean stew will be easily absorbed than the one that has no fish powder in it. And then a little bit of vitamin C, also important. What are some of the inhibitors of iron absorption? Yes, we have fiber. If you recall, I mentioned fiber when we're talking about the carbohydrates. Yes, fiber also prevents. They tend to bind or chelate the iron when we have them in excess, and therefore does not make them available. Yes, coffee, tea, and cocoa, they also contain. So most of the time, we advise pregnant women not to shy away from tea, coffee, and cocoa whilst they are pregnant, especially when they are anemic. So it is not a one-size-fits-all. But if somebody is not anemic, the person can take these things in moderation. But where there is anemia, then it's best to advise the mother to shy away from that. So iron requirements based upon the life stage, and then if the person is a mother, yes, it is very, very important that she gets more of the iron than needed. Yes. Functions in the body, I've mentioned, blood formation, erythropoiesis, oxygen carrier, transport of electrons within the cells, and then also as a coenzyme. Very, very important. Deficiency has serious implications reduced workability, maternal and child mortality is on the rise, inability to maintain body temperature, impaired immune function are some of the deficiency symptoms that we see. And most importantly, reduced work capacity. This has national implications. Apart from the individual, what think of a country where most of the people are iron deficient and therefore are anemic? Who will work? Nobody will work. And this has serious implication on our work output as a country. So how do we manage and prevent? Yes. Blood transfusion, oral iron, yes, but this should be done in consultation with a medic, because there are certain conditions that does not need iron. For example, sickle cell, because the red blood cells break quite often. But we encourage dietary approach should be the best. Dietary approach should be the best. Yes, it is very, very important that we use food to solve most of our problems. General symptoms, I've talked about them, and this flow diagram, always bring in the diagram so that as you can picture them, and that will help you to remember. The eye will be affected, every aspect of the body will be affected, because also, blood has to flow, but there's insufficient blood, and therefore there is a challenge. So our last micronutrient of global health importance is zinc. Zinc is also an element. It's an element that is very, very important to us, and also plays an important role in the body as a coenzyme, and also in development of certain organs in the body. As we go on, I'll mention a few of them. What are some of the food sources? Dietary sources are abundant. We find it in grains and cereals, in meat and meat products, in our legumes, in our fish, seafood, also very abundant. But once again, as I said, understand the background of the individual, then you advise the food source. But most of us get it from our cereals and grains. However, as I mentioned, then we have the phytase and the phytic acid that are also present in there, and they also prevent absorption. But with some of our food processing techniques like fermentations and so forth, we override some of these things, and therefore the element is easily available to us. So somebody who does not process the cereal, ferment or whatnot, the availability is not easily as somebody who does the fermentation. When it comes to absorption also, it is just like the iron, it follows about the same path, but then when it is bound, then it becomes a challenge. It cannot be absorbed. Yes, the flow diagram also shows us the metabolic pathway from the GIT where it goes. And as I said, always remember that everything, once it's absorbed, has to go to the liver for detoxification. Then it is released gradually into the body. And as I mentioned, yes, the diet component, the totality of the diet has an effect on how much is absorbed in the body. Then we also have other interactions of zinc with other minerals such as iron, calcium, and copper, and folic acid. They all interact to affect. Some will enhance, others will also inhibit the absorption. Deficiency is also a challenge in Ghana, but in Ghana of late, I think we've overcome, because WHO, together with the Noguchi Institute for Medical Research of the University of Ghana, has come out with a vaccine which is zinc rich, that is helping to reduce the diarrhea diseases. So children under the age of the 6 months, they go to their antenatal, they are given the vaccine. So it is helping. Deficiency include immune deficiency, loss of hair, impaired appetite, delayed wound healing. So in most of the creams that are used for sores and so forth, see that it contains zinc because of its role. There's growth retardation, skin lesions, and even in males, it's been found that it also affects the development of the genitalia. So recommended intakes, yes, you see that as you age, the amount increases. You are not to memorize this, just have it as a guide to help you. So I'm sure you don't have a fair idea of the micronutrients of global health. When you are sleeping, somebody waste, you should be able to mention the 2 vitamins, vitamin A and folic acid. Vitamin A as a fat soluble, folic acid as a water soluble, then the trace elements iron, zinc, and iodine are the 5 micronutrients of global health importance. So read your notes in addition to the readings that I've given, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you.